You see, for years, I thought she was actually talking about a white rabbit. I didn't realize she was saying bad habit. Shut up. Cookies for you, will my fingers do? Space giraffe! Oh, yes, indeedy, feed the needy. She gave a dazed look around. They'd reached her doorstep and she hadn't noticed. Thank God she had the presence of mind not to leave her purse in his car. She dug blindly through its contents. Keys! They had to be in there somewhere. Eric's mouth on her neck didn't help, but her hand at last closed on their jagged edges. Here, she whispered. He had to back up while she fumbled for the house key and inserted it into the lock. She turned the knob and they nearly fell in, staggering and then regaining their footing. Humor threaded the ragged sensuality in his voice. If we'd gone down to the floor, we wouldn't have gotten back up. Even as she chuckled, her breath caught. I wouldn't have cared. Good. His hand gripped her buttocks, and he pressed her tightly to him. The feel of his erection against her belly awakened long-buried desire. Her hips lifted, sought a natural resting place. If we don't make it to your bedroom in the next 30 seconds, it'll be too late, he growled. Last door. She murmured wordless agreement. He didn't give her a chance to lead the way. With startling abruptness, he lifted her off the floor. She gave a squeak, wrapping her legs around his waist and her arms around his neck. I don't want to let go of you, he told her, his eyes glittering with pale green fire. She touched his mouth, which slanted into a purely male smile that did nothing to lessen the impact of that gaze. Her fingers trailed to his jaw, shaven but rough, then to the long grooves carved in his lean cheeks. Don't let go of me, she said as he shouldered open her bedroom door, sending cats scattering from her bed and out of the room. Eric lowered her onto the comforter, in a voice that had the texture of corduroy, rough and velvety at the same time. He said, never. A thrill quivered through her, and then his gaze swept over her with the possessiveness of a man claiming something as his own. God, you're beautiful. She wanted to hear, I love you. But she had to admit he was beautiful too. As he unbuttoned her blouse and pushed it aside, she did the same to his shirt, fumbling with the last few buttons. He gave a sound of satisfaction at the same moment she did. His fingers felt calloused against the tender skin of her breasts. That texture, like the grittiness of his jaw and the roughness in his voice, only heightened her excitement. Oh! His shoulders were wonderful, broad and smoothly muscled under tanned skin. No mat of hair disguised the contours of his chest. He was sleek and brown and warm under her exploring hands, and his heartbeat drummed as frantically as her own. Your breasts are perfect, he murmured, and bent to kiss first one nipple, then the other. The vibrations of his voice played on her skin as he freed his mouth enough to nuzzle her. I knew they would be. She chilled a little, but the pull of his mouth had an electric effect on her body. Her hips lifted and pushed against his thigh, braced between her legs, and he gave a soft laugh of triumph before suckling her breasts. This time she felt his teeth, and she cried out from the intense pleasure of it. But then, oh God, then, he reared up to gaze at her, a fierce grin of male satisfaction on his face. With the air of a connoisseur, he stroked circles on her belly with his fingertips. Your skin is incredibly soft. How the hell do you stay so white, so silky? She said nothing, only stared up at him. He reached behind her head and deftly pulled the pins from her hair, tossing them to the carpet, sifting her curls through his fingers. Your hair is glorious. Still, she gazed up at his face, so taut and male, but his face had become their faces, and his words, his compliments, bled together with their words, their compliments to her beauty, but never to her. He wasn't different. She'd been fooling herself. Madeline was suddenly cold. Her muscles tightened and her hands curled into fists. Above her, Eric noticed, and he stiffened. His gaze sharpened. Her hair slipped unnoticed from his fingers. Is something wrong? Yes. The word was bold, as icy as she felt. I can't do this. You what? Would you please get up? He swore and rolled to one side. What the dickens, Charles? Nothing's changed, has it? Madeline said bitterly, scrambling from the bed. I should have listened to my instincts in the first place. Instincts, God damn it, he roared. Tell me what's going on. Feeling negative in a way she hadn't 2 minutes ago, Madeline turned away from Eric as she shrugged into her blouse. Only one thing counts, doesn't it? She said. You want a beautiful woman to show off, a beautiful woman under you in bed. You're just like all the other men I've ever met. Eric uttered a sharp profanity and jackknifed to his feet. You are beautiful. What do you want me to do? Poke your hip bones and tell you you're bony, but I'll have you anyway? Facing him, she cried, I want you to see something besides my perfect breast. What if they weren't perfect? What if they were drooping or covered in stretch marks? Would I qualify as a potential bed partner next time? Infuriated and sick, she spun around again, shutting out the sight of him. Garth was right. What? Teeth set, Eric caught her arm and pulled her to face him. What in God's name are you talking about? He said you dated me because I was pretty, she said, wrenching herself free. Fool that I am, I told myself it wasn't true. You are pretty, his voice rose to a bellow. That doesn't mean I don't admire your soul or whatever the hell I'm supposed to be commenting on when I have a hard-on for you. Hot and cold at the same time, she clutched her blouse together. You never did answer my question. What if my breasts weren't perfect? He grabbed his shirt from the bed and, with quick, angry movements, yanked it on. I wouldn't have wanted you, of course. I'm so goddamn perfect myself, I won't settle for anything less in a woman. You know me. I have to have the best of everything. He stopped after having shoved 3 buttons through random buttonholes. Slinging his tie around his neck, he went on with icy contempt. Yeah, I drive a Rolls. Buy my clothes at Brooks Brothers. Nothing but show-quality, purebred pets for me. Hell, I may make my living treating other people's mangy animals, but I wouldn't have one in my own house. I admit it. You've got me pegged. She pressed a hand to her stomach to quell her nausea. You know I don't mean no! He stopped in the bedroom doorway and gave her a look so scathing she had to close her eyes. Then just what do you mean? Even if she could have answered, he didn't give her a chance. When she opened her eyes, he was gone. The front door slammed so hard, pictures on the wall vibrated. Eyes saucer-wide, Maggie shot into the room and dove under the bed. The car engine gunned in the driveway, roared as he backed out. A moment later, the sound receded as he drove away, out of her life in every way that counted. Starkly, she wondered which was worse. To think she'd been right, or to think she'd misjudged him totally. She began to cry, standing there in the middle of her bedroom, the sobs shaking her, the tears streaming unchecked down her face. Dear God! What if he had loved her? I bought this just to do the White Rabbit thing. I don't eat chocolate. The hell am I gonna do with it now? Well, my thing's due, Space Giraffe.